stop and ask him if he wanted to ride.
Right.
Like that kind of guy, you should help him out. When I drove a cab in Manhattan, there was a guy that always intrigued me on 57th Street standing there with a big Viking outfit.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever saw him. He was pretty well known in that 57th Street region.
Okay.
And, he didn't look like a guy who had much money. So when I drove a cab, when I had make enough money and I could put mileage on without reporting in mileage, I'd stop and ask him if he wanted to ride.
Right.
Like that kind of guy, you should help him out. The big guy staying in a Viking outfit. And it turns out his name was Moondog. He called himself Moondog.
Right.
And I started asking him, and he said, I'm really, he said, what do you do, driving a guy? I said, well, I'm a musician and I'm trying to make ends meet. I got an apartment, I got to support it. He said, well, I'm a classical composer.
Come on.
Yeah. And he said, and actually, I have records out under the name Moondog. So he handed me a record. He handed me a Moondog vinyl in those days.
Yeah.
And on there is a song called Bird's Lament.
All right.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful song because he said, I was good friends with Charlie Parker. And Moondog eventually moved to Germany and became pretty well known as a classical composer. But at this time, only certain people knew him in Manhattan. And that's the way I knew him, by seeing a guy who I thought needed a ride on 57th Street. And so now we're going years later. So let's record Bird's Lament by Moondog. And we'll do it with the accordion and Hammond organ, with the Crowmatix. And I'll use my friend Larry Packer, the violinist, who is, a guitar player in Cat Mother, who Jimi Hendrix produced Larry's records when Larry was the lead guitar player at records. And, Larry was the violinist in The Last Waltz.
Okay.
So I said, let's use Larry as the lead instrument with the accordion. And so we put that on the record. So the Moondog, Bird's Lament is on the new record also, which is great. Now Moondog used saxophones because he wanted to do it after Charlie Parker, but I wanted to take it with my people. So we took liberties, but still gave him credit for the song and the writing of the song. And, Louie Harden was his real name.